Husband thought I lost the inheritance until I found the hidden fortune no one claimed. I still remember the exact moment my husband looked at me like I was a disappointment. It wasn't loud, no shouting, no drama, just a quiet, heavy silence. And that look. "You lost it?" Daniel asked, rubbing his temples like I just told him I burned down our future. I swallowed. I didn't lose it. The lawyer said the account was empty. "Empty doesn't just happen, Emma," he muttered. "That was your grandfather's entire estate." Our entire plan had been built on that inheritance. The house upgrade, the business investment, the life we kept saying we'd finally start. Gone. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. Even me, at first. The reading of the will had been strange from the start. Too quick, too clean. My grandfather, the same man who used to hide birthday money inside books just to make me search for it, had apparently left everything in a single account. And that account? 0. No transactions, no transfers, just nothing. It didn't make sense. But grief has a way of making you accept things you shouldn't. For a week, I tried to move on. I really did. Daniel didn't yell, but he didn't hide his frustration either. He started working longer hours, stopped asking how I was, stopped touching me altogether. One night, I overheard him on the phone. "I don't know what she did," he said quietly, "but it's gone." That hurt more than anything, because even I started wondering, what if I missed something? That question kept me awake at night, until I remembered the box. It was something small, almost forgettable. A wooden box my grandfather had insisted I take before he passed. "Don't open it right away," he had said with a wink. "Wait until you really need to understand." At the time, I thought it was just one of his quirky habits. Now, it felt different. I found the box buried in the back of my closet, under old sweaters and things I hadn't touched in months. My hands actually shook as I pulled it out. "Okay, Grandpa," I whispered. "What did you leave me?" Inside, there wasn't money. No jewelry, no obvious answers. Just 3 things. A folded piece of paper, an old key, and a photograph. I picked up the photo first. It was of a house I didn't recognize. Small, white, surrounded by trees, peaceful, almost too perfect. On the back, in my grandfather's messy handwriting, were 4 words. "Not everything is visible." A chill ran down my spine. I unfolded the paper next. Coordinates. Actual coordinates. And a date. That's when my heart started racing. Because I knew exactly what this meant. This wasn't an inheritance you withdraw. This was something you find. Something hidden. Something no one else had claimed. I grabbed my phone and typed in the coordinates. The map loaded slowly, like it was building suspense on purpose. And when it finally pinned the location, I froze. Because it wasn't in another country. It wasn't even far. It was just a few hours away. Close enough to reach. Close enough to change everything. That night, I didn't tell Daniel. For the first time since all of this started, I kept a secret. Because something inside me whispered, if I was right, then I hadn't lost the inheritance. Not even close. I had just been looking in the wrong place. And whatever was waiting at those coordinates was never meant to be easy, or obvious, or shared. So tell me this. If you found a hidden clue like that, would you tell your partner or go alone? Because the next morning, I made a decision that would either save my life or destroy everything I thought I knew. And I didn't look back. I didn't tell Daniel. Not when I packed a small bag. Not when I left a note saying I needed time to think. And definitely not when I started driving toward those coordinates, with my heart pounding like I was doing something illegal. Because maybe I was. Not illegal, but dangerous. The entire drive, I kept thinking about my grandfather. The way he smiled when he gave me that box. The way he said, "Wait until you really need to understand." Understand what? That he didn't trust anyone else? Or that this, whatever I was chasing, was never meant to be shared? 3 hours later, my GPS signal started to weaken. Of course it did. The road narrowed into something barely drivable. Trees closed in from both sides like they were guarding a secret. I almost turned back. Almost. But then I saw it. The house. The same one from the photograph. Small, white, quiet. Too quiet. It sat in the middle of nowhere, like it had been forgotten on purpose. No cars, no neighbors, no signs of life. Except the front gate was slightly open. That wasn't in the picture. A weird feeling crept up my spine. Okay, maybe it's just old, I whispered to myself. But my voice didn't sound convincing. I stepped out of the car slowly, clutching the key from the box in my hand. Every step toward the house felt heavier than the last. Crunch. Crunch. The sound of gravel under my shoes felt way too loud in the silence. I reached the door. Locked. Good. At least that meant no one had been inside, right? I hesitated for a second before sliding the key into the lock. It fit. Of course it did. The moment I turned it, the door creaked open like it had been waiting for me. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. The air inside smelled clean. Not dusty, not abandoned. Clean. That's when my chest tightened. Because abandoned houses don't smell like that. I stepped inside anyway. The living room looked frozen in time. Furniture covered in white sheets, but not a single layer of dust on them. Someone had been here. Recently. My grip tightened around the key. "Okay, think, Emma," I muttered. "This was supposed to be your grandfather's secret. So why did it feel like someone else had already found it?" I pulled the photograph out again, comparing it to the room. Everything matched. Except one thing. There was a door in the corner of the room, slightly open. I was sure it wasn't in the photo, and something about it felt wrong. Like it was inviting me in, or warning me to stay away. I don't know why, but I walked toward it anyway. Each step slower than the last. My heartbeat loud enough to drown out everything else. When I pushed the door open, I froze. It wasn't a room. It was a staircase. Leading down. Of course it was. Because nothing about this was simple anymore. I should have left right then. Got back in my car, called Daniel, pretended none of this existed. But I didn't. Because at that point, I wasn't just curious anymore. I was invested. I needed to know. So I took a deep breath and stepped down. 1 step, 2, 3. The air got colder the further I went. And then I heard it. A sound. Soft. Subtle. But unmistakable. Footsteps. Not mine. I stopped instantly. My heart jumped into my throat because there was only one thought running through my head now. I wasn't alone. And whoever else was here knew exactly where to go. Tell me honestly, would you keep going or run? Because what I saw at the bottom of those stairs made me realize something terrifying. This wasn't just a hidden inheritance. It was a secret people were willing to protect, and I had just walked straight into it. I should have run. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around, go back upstairs, get in my car, and forget this place ever existed. But I didn't, because I needed answers. And fear has a strange way of turning into determination when you've already lost everything. I held my breath and stayed perfectly still. The footsteps echoed again. Closer this time. Slow, careful, intentional. Whoever it was, they weren't scared. They were familiar. My fingers tightened around the railing as I forced myself to take another step down. Then another. Until finally, I reached the bottom. And what I saw didn't make sense. It wasn't some dark, creepy basement. It was a vault. A fully built, reinforced vault hidden beneath the house. Metal walls, locked cabinets, even a security panel that looked way too modern for a place like this. My grandfather didn't just hide money. He built something to protect it. And then I saw them. Stacks, boxes, documents, gold. Actual gold. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. This is insane, I whispered. Yeah, a voice behind me said. It really is. My blood turned cold. I didn't have to turn around. I already knew that voice. Daniel, I whispered. Slowly, I faced him. He stood there casually, like this was exactly where he expected to be. No surprise, no confusion, just calm. And that terrified me more than anything. You followed me, I said, my voice shaking. He smiled slightly. You really thought I wouldn't? My stomach dropped. How did you even know? He let out a soft laugh. Emma, you're not as hard to read as you think. That hurt, but not as much as what came next. I didn't know exactly what your grandfather left you, he continued, but I knew there was no way it was nothing. So yeah, I kept an eye on you. An eye on me? The words felt heavier than they should. You tracked me? I asked. Let's not make it sound so dramatic, he shrugged. I just didn't trust that you weren't hiding something. There it was. The truth. Not concern, not partnership. Control. I looked around the vault again, then back at him. So, what now? I asked quietly. His eyes flicked to the gold, the documents, the fortune. We take what's ours, he said simply. Ours. That word didn't sit right anymore. Not after everything. Not after the doubt, the distance, the way he looked at me like I had failed him. I took a slow step back. No, I said. His expression changed instantly. What? This isn't ours, I repeated. It's mine. The silence that followed was dangerous. You wouldn't even be here without me, he snapped. Don't forget that. I almost laughed. Because that was the moment everything became clear. I didn't need him to find this. I didn't need him to understand it. And I definitely didn't need him to control it. I didn't lose the inheritance, I said, meeting his eyes. I just found out who I lost along the way. That hit him. I saw it. The shift. The anger. But also something else. Fear. Because for the first time, he realized he wasn't in control anymore. I turned back toward the vault, my heart finally steady. This wasn't just money. It was freedom. A second chance. A life I could build on my own terms. And for once, I wasn't afraid of that. So let me ask you, if you discovered a fortune like this, but it cost you someone you loved, would you still take it? Or would you walk away? Because I made my choice that day, and I never looked back. If this story kept you hooked, and you want more twists like this, don't forget to like and subscribe, because the next one might be even crazier.